you taking upon something that you know for yourself, it's hard for you to do because you told me that. Like you've told me this several times. I think it's excellent.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it'll only reward you.
Yeah, it can't be bad.
Future.
That's why I'm doing it, because it can't be bad.
But let's talk about the hot topics, Mike. Okay,
because nothing's possible unless you sacrifice for something. The memes are going wild. The internet's wild.
We do want to talk because this podcast is going to be contemporary. A lot of times we release a podcast and, the podcast comes out and it's already been 4 weeks. This one we can talk about. We want to talk about right now just Colin Kaepernick and Nike. Mike, do you want to set it up for us?
Yeah. So for those that it's been about a year, maybe 2-year controversy going on where Colin Kaepernick, quarterback who was highly successful in his first season for the 49ers, led them to a Super Bowl, had begun to kneel during the national anthem at every game.
Protest.
And from his words, and many others in the NFL began to do it, and even other sports, full teams began to do it. And from his aspect, he just wanted to bring attention to mostly the police violence in the African American communities that are going around in America, the shootings, the public shootings. He just wanted to bring attention to that. Opposite side of what we have going on is many people feel that is disrespectful to the national anthem, which is something that we do before every sports game to obviously kind of stay united and things like that. And maybe by kneeling, you're disrespecting that, or not being
people
united.
Then brought up troops, like disrespecting the troops.
Yeah, just like not being united with everybody else, which is the point of that before we go into, competitive mode against the other team. And to be honest, I see both sides. And the third side, which is almost a different conversation, is, and this is something I think about a lot, and you probably do too, is when do you use your platform and when do you not use your platform to push whatever it is you feel like, right? And so, you and I have this podcast where we can talk about whatever we want, and we still don't really have an agenda to push, even though we may be a little bit more open with our opinions here, rather than, we have a fitness YouTube or a fitness Instagram, or you're a football player, you're a basketball player, or even the opposite, you're a politician. If you're a politician, is it your time to start talking about, what cars you like or what food you like? Opposite, do you use your platform for what your platform is and what you built it on, or do you consider yourself blessed for building that platform and then use it how you believe is right?
Yeah. And then set us up, Mike, finally, before we begin talking. So that's what happened a few years ago. And then what's going on with Nike?
The last 2 years. And then I believe it's the 30th, some kind of 30th anniversary of Nike. And they're dropped a kind of a billboard picture graphic. And it's Kaepernick looking pretty stern or stoic away. And don't quote me, I already missed it. But it says, if you don't sacrifice everything for what you believe in, something of that nature. Let me look
Connor,
it up.
get us the quote. Yeah, so as I understand it, Colin Kaepernick is going to be one of the leading faces of Nike's big 30th anniversary campaign. And so he has a quote.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. And it's Kaepernick looking very serious. And it says Nike just do a campaign, 30-year anniversary.
And now this has become a heavily divisive topic because some people are definitely supporting Colin. Other people are thrown in a fit of rage. Their Nike shoes, burning them. There's a whole bunch of protests.
Yeah.
And
it's a passionate topic, and I get it. I get why.
Before I share my opinion, I guess I just say, you brittle motherfuckers. Like, if that triggers you that much, I think because a certain portion of the people that are burning their gear and whatnot, they are probably the people that are likely to call someone a snowflake or an SJW, a social justice warrior. So they're people that you probably identify more on the conservative side. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they are appalled that Colin Kaepernick, who they view as someone that's not good, is getting the limelight by Nike. But if you're that perturbed by someone being signed as an athlete, I just think you're super brittle. Because here's what I mean when I say that. I think free speech is absolutely important. Now, the NFL is a private institution, much like YouTube. What you're vocal about, trying to defend a certain type of free speech, I think indicates where your mindset is. So recently, Alex Jones, without going into details, Alex Jones has something called InfoWars. He was on YouTube. He was on Facebook. They removed his channel. They deleted it completely. And there was so much of an outcry. And now this is someone that is controversial because he's made claims about Sandy Hook victims that have then come to bite those victims in the ass. Sandy Hook, where there was a lot of people murdered. Some parents were harassed by people because he claimed there's some a falseness to the story. And so they were harassed. And so big implications, but people threw a big rah-rah like, but my freedom of speech, what's going on? I think if you want Alex Jones, for those that support, Alex Jones want him back. If you support Alex Jones, think that was an infringement on freedom of speech, then Colin Kaepernick, by the same token, at the very least, should have had the right to protest at the NFL because YouTube is a private platform, NFL is the same thing. And so I think for some people, the concept of being morally consistent doesn't resonate with them, where they could be outraged by something.
Just play devil's advocate. I'm not sure about Facebook's.
Let's bounce.
Well,
I'm ready to bounce all over.
Facebook probably has a TOS of some nature, and if Alex Jones crossed that TOS, they have the right to take it down. Where the NFL, because this is something they keep bringing up, that it's not in their rule book for anything that you have to do.
There's no specific rule
that you have to do anything for the national anthem. You don't even have to be there. You don't even have to be on the field.
Mike,
you know, so in that sense, Kaepernick pretty much does have free reign.
I don't think
where it gets hairy though is that these NFL things are being shown on different news networks, which whether I don't even think it's set in stone, but obviously different news networks have different belief systems, and they fall different on the spectrum of politics, and so then that gets even hairier, right? Like, is Fox News going to be less likely to show a Niners game because of Kaepernick, and then the Niners are going to lose out on money?
They're protecting their own interests. They don't want to make no mistake. There is no morals that we're truly talking about here. These are big businesses, big corporations that are have financial incentives, and so they were scared with Colin that it's going to turn an X number of people out. They don't care about the moral issue that maybe he might be bringing up. And honestly speaking, as an outsider, because I'm Canadian, when I first saw it where he bent his knee, I'm like, this is like a really respectful protest. Like, if you wanted to be quote unquote disrespectful, you could turn your back to it. You could do a bunch of different things. And I just think it's interesting where, as I understand it, the original national anthem, American, actually has a whole verse about kind of slaves or like a few different things. I could be wrong. Connor, fact check me on that real quick. Original national anthem. US, just confirm for me.
I did hear a story about the first time the national anthem was ever sung out of sports. It was in 1900 whatever, and I think it was during maybe even.
So what I was going to say, Mike, is that also that when people talk about the founding fathers, I'm like, when they first started with the rights, like women couldn't vote, minorities couldn't vote, only landowners could vote. So it wasn't a true democracy in the sense. So when we take a look at the evolution and people trying to bring attention to certain issues, using that platform, am I personally bothered by someone trying to raise awareness? What is the potential net negative from the situation? Then what's the potential net positive? I don't personally care. If you want to talk about the hypocrisy of a place like Nike, and that's what, to me, I thought was most hilarious, is all these people burning their Nike stuff. I'm like, really, dog? Really? It's like, you see the deplorable conditions that Nike has put their workers through, child labor laws, where there's sweatshops, people being paid terrible wages that aren't ethical wages for their country, a whole bunch of different potential issues. And what you choose to be upset at Nike is that Colin Kaepernick is now an athlete. Like, man, you're brittle. Like, that's the only thing I could say. If you're that bothered, I can't be bothered that much by anything. I've been called so many crazy things online. Nothing has bothered me whatsoever. Someone being announced as an athlete for a campaign that tried to stand up for something that he believed in, whether you disagree with it or not. I think it also hit me back, Connor.
It talks about hiring slaves.
Yeah, it talks about the original verse. So I'm like, guys, like let's look up a little bit of history right now, of what's going on. And so I think raising some awareness that he wanted to for a social issue, is that the right place? It's like, I am someone that's a huge proponent of freedom of speech. It gets complicated because it's the NFL. It's not like he's in a public place. So I understand there are many different parameters when discussing this issue, but it's like, you're not even saying anything that crazy. Like, I thought if you were to interrupt the game or something, like I think the main issue, from an outsider, Mike, like I don't see the big deal.
The main issue is like everything else is people they're talking to each other, but having different conversations, right? Like one side's talking about disrespect to the country and disrespect to our military and disrespect to the national anthem. And the other side is literally trying to bring up awareness of something totally opposite of that conversation, rather than everyone just chilling out and not letting their emotions. Don't let your political thoughts. Don't let anything become so.
Let's all just love each other.
Don't let it become religion or ingrained in you that hard. Nothing.
What you're talking about?
Yeah, you can't, because you can't go into that with a calm, cool head to even try to understand the other side. And that's the issue with everything. People on one side are only listening to a dude blew up at me in the gym, and I didn't even say a word. I literally put in this is 9 months ago, last football season. I'm just in the gym on a Sunday getting a pump or whatever.
Oh, did you try and say something?
No, I didn't say a thing. The conversation just came up between three guys, and one guy's going off. He's like, I haven't watched the NFL in 6 months, and Colin Kaepernick. And I was like, I didn't say it. I was like, yeah. I just sat there because I'm kind of like you, libertarian, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I'm going to deal with things on my own. Do I think what's happening with the police brutality? I think it's absolutely insane and not good. But I'm going to deal with whatever's happening out in this world, and I'm going to deal with it on my own. That's just kind of, I adjust and I work around things.
Yeah, I'll say like I don't like the duopoly of how it exists in America, where there's only two parties. I'm like, come on, man, you need to fit everyone into a neat category of two different parties. I'm not a fan of that. But what I was going to say is I think the future always belongs to the radical, and what I mean is the person that's breaking from the norm to raise potential issues. Someone, and now this is a whole different conversation, but things are normalized over time. And what I mean is someone, you have your dog, Cassius, named after Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali did a peaceful protest where he decided he was supposed to go to Vietnam. He decided he did not want to go. He went to jail for that. Now, history has looked back at that.
But do you know whose campaign he was on and no one cares?
What do you mean?
Oh, he was the face of an Adidas campaign recently and back then. So,
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
But
so
like,
I mean, 20 years from now.
So, Mike, that's what's amazing. The people, it's like, I think taking guts and taking a stand in a lot of places, I always respect it just because I know the unpopular opinion, because there is groupthink, there's the mob mentality. Oh, these people think a certain way, I must think that. And again, to be radical means to break from the norm. And that's what Rascal, Schism, the clothing company that I started, it means to separate from, schism from. And so the idea behind it, Muhammad Ali, when he came out, when he changed his name, converted to Islam, when he decided to protest the war by not going and fighting, because he's like, these guys didn't do anything to me, he went to jail. There was so much backlash at the time. I would say if you were to poll America as a whole, the majority hated him. And now he's revered as a hero. Is something similar going to happen? I don't know when it comes to this. And again, was this the right way of bringing about attention to these issues? A counterpoint to that would be, well, then when should someone bring attention to? I just think it's interesting how people get morally outraged by certain things, but not others. Or, again, some people, and someone brought up this point, it's like some of the people that are outraged that Alex Jones got deleted from YouTube at the same time think that Colin Kaepernick shouldn't have the right to protest at the game. I'm like, well, you can't have it both ways.
Well, and people say that in a way he did. People say that coaches and organizations didn't want that mess and he didn't get signed again.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. He's been blacklisted. Like that is a fact. It's not due to his ability, right? It's actually due to his voice. And so
I mean, that is hard to say fact because he didn't play as well in this the following season. But I mean, it's hard to fact hard idea to ignore.
I don't know football well enough to judge. What I've heard is that at the least he can be second string, a starting quarterback. But
he should probably have a contract.
So it's like, what type of message does that send that if you try and raise a voice or have an opinion about something that might be an unpopular opinion that you just let go? That's a way of silencing individuals that then becomes dangerous. I think
a lot of players start to follow up and do the kneeling as well on multiple teams across the league, and I've heard some interviews from them on ESPN or the otherwise. And my issue is, and this is like my own issue. This isn't my issue with what's going on. This is my own inner issue. Is like, yes, I think you should do whatever you want and whatever you think is right, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, and you should bring up attention to these things. But for me, I'm not going to bring attention to something, whether it's on my social media channels or whatever I've built up, unless I have an answer. And that's maybe just how my head works. Because then not and I'm not saying this about Kaepernick by any means, but for me to do something like that, then I just feel like a whiner. Like, oh, I don't like this. Let's look at this. Okay, well, that's great. But that's just another issue with our politics in general in the United States right now, is everyone's pointing out issues and everyone's pointing out the problem with that side and this person and that person, but no one has a fucking answer to solve it. And obviously it's not that easy to solve, police crime on African Americans in America. Like, that's a fucking huge conversation and impossible to do because we have so many individuals, and it's about the individual in the conversation. But for me, as a whatever kind of influence I have on a podcast, YouTube, etc., it's hard for me to want to speak out and use my platform for those things unless I had a direct answer. Like, hey, I see this as fucked up, and I think this would fix it. We need to do this. Like, you guys are idiots. We need to do this.